Okay. So I know we're all anxious to avoid hurricanes and get to our planes. So I am going to take a very brief trip down memory lane of the last 2 days. And first off, this was a learning session. And if people here didn't learn something, that meant they probably weren't listening or paying attention. It was pretty incredible the amount of knowledge that was shared and across a whole bunch of categories. I'll hit a couple of quick ones that kind of just as I thought about everything that I heard over the last 2 days, but certainly what the power of real collaboration is. There's one thing I can't stand, and some people I work with would agree, PowerPoints with buzzwords that don't get lived into. It's what I love about talking about QI to, every partner or company that I speak to, because it's real world. It's actually doing things. It's not saying, oh yeah, we're about improving care for people. No, we have 100 stories of what you guys are working on, and we share them all the time. And it's pretty powerful. I want to thank active participation. I mean, that's what makes this learning session valuable. And certainly I want to thank my entire T1D Exchange team that helped put this on. If I can get a little round of applause. Like a scrappy nonprofit, we asked some of them to take on side jobs that they don't normally do. So some tech support, photography, and so forth. So thanks for bearing with us on a couple of hiccups, but all in all, I was really, really happy with the way we, worked through all that and put on a great conference. Thanks to Helmsley, of course, our largest funder and supporter over the years. And, we appreciate also being involved in other things that, Laurel referenced some of these other activities that we get to share our data with. And, Asagi and Ori at an NCQA conference trying to talk about quality measures and, importance of going beyond just A1C, maybe adding some other things in there. But we really appreciate that support, and that's how we're able to pull off things like this. Thanks to Janine and Francesco and the entire Miami team for hosting. You picked a good place to live, and we're happy you invited us down here. And again, taking that little trip to DRI, which I'd never been to. I've only read about some of the research there. That was pretty interesting, seeing how you get islet cells from a pancreas. And it's only 2%, by the way, of the pancreas. I learned that too. You heard from Asagi about some of the accomplishments that you have all contributed to and driven. It's always impressive when he updates that graphic and shows us, here's our year in review, Dave. Wow, 18 publications, really? It's pretty impressive. And certainly the Journal of Diabetes partnering with us here is an important way to get out some of the knowledge so others can see what's going on and learn. Part of what we do here is not just for our own benefit, it's to try to proliferate that. So certainly appreciate that. You heard from me about the registry, T1Dregistry.org. Write that down if you have patients that you think might want to join. But we're at 16,400. I don't even think that's 1% of the US T1D population. So we're going to keep growing and get more representation in there. So any assistance you guys can provide by spreading the word, T1Dregistry.org. We heard an interesting panel talk about building QI capacity. I think a couple of things that stood out. The importance of knowing the big goal while focusing on small change. Even if you have only a little bit of data, that's still better than none. So use that as some rationale. Weekly meetings, not monthly. I think I heard that. If you can get an Epic analyst or learn how to use that Epic workbench that I think Todd talked about, certainly that can be helpful. But the really kind of iterating and being kind of iterative is certainly something that you guys live and make happen. So that was good to hear. Some of the breakouts, I couldn't go to all of them at the same time, but obviously making access to devices is what we're all about. and now much more focus on making it equitable and not just for a certain subset of people having, great access to technology. It's when I read that, or I've heard people cite this statistic about clinical inertia in 17 years to get something to be a standard of care. I say, it can't take that long. I mean, how long has CGM been around? Oh yeah, it was 2006. There were 3 of them that were out, and we're a leading group of centers here that are just above 50%, well, maybe pushing 60% of CGM use, but it's taken a long time. So that's also something that's just kind of sobering to remember, that it doesn't happen overnight. It takes a lot of the hard work that you guys are doing to drive that that utilization. I heard about the dashboards and Pop Health and the 6 habits, and seeing how people are using that to drive change. Data uploads, social determinants of health screening, a lot of the mental health and depression experiences, and how people are trying to proliferate that. We heard an interesting talk on rapid and ultra rapid insulins, the utility as well as the considerations that certainly need to be taken into account. We learned that at Marabou, you don't have to order a mojito to get one delivered to your table. Thankfully, you guys were very willing participants in that. So thank you for being cooperative. It's in your nature. Congrats to the award winners, including our inaugural Nicole Riolas Patient Parent Award to Emily. But all of you, and we know there are a lot of you that are very deserving, and we wish we could give out more, but be patient. Psychosocial screening and the talk that was given, I think it stood out, the family conflict topic and how impactful that is into the kind of the overall outcomes. I think that was certainly a takeaway for me. Highlights on the QIC infrastructure and some of the tips for enhancing your utility. I think some of you who were in that breakout realize that if you do map your data and you do look at the portal a lot, you might, there's some things that wouldn't be obvious that you'll see. And ways to reduce DKA, a lot of good tips in there for those in that breakout. Dr. Pugliese with a comprehensive review of a lot of kind of cutting edge research and that team science approach that it was really interesting to see, particularly around the screening. And we may have, if things go well at the FDA in 9 days, I think there may be a product out on the market. We'll see how that goes. Thank you to the Rodriguez family for sharing your experiences. And as we talked about at lunch, it's important when people are asking feedback to get authentic, real answers and not what someone wants to hear. So saying, yeah, I wouldn't use that. It's good to know that, because sometimes we don't know until we hear it from people if something really has, value to you or not. So we appreciate the kind of the truthfulness and straightforwardness. So thank you. And Dr. Rappaport's review of Journal of Diabetes. And I think we all learned something about the impact factor and how they operate. And, I think that the open nature of people were talking about the other journals that are going to open access. I think it's pediatric diabetes. And then the committee presentations, which I was not a part of, but I did read the synopsis, so I think I know what went on there. But certainly, the advocacy for change in the panel here at the end, Asagi summed it up nicely. Great to hear real world stories about how you guys are actually fighting some of those fights. It's the number of times we hear from people with diabetes, their frustrations on using a DME distributor, it's like unbelievable. And fighting with insurance about coverage and things that we just, it's 2022. How does this still kind of be the norm? It's crazy. But people like you fighting it and pushing back and showing data and getting them to change and attending formulary meetings. I mean, that's how things change. So I think that's it. I don't know, Osagi, if you have any other housekeeping or if it's literally Adios. But yeah, New York, New York. Thank you. Bye.